Yo, Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. We are on the Tuesday, which is our series of Why I Left, What's Wrong with the Bible. And so today we are continuing the series. We're Deuteronomy 9 and 10. If you haven't seen the previous versions, the previous videos, you can go to my YouTube page, Coach Renz, or Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz, and go to the playlist, and you will see the Genesis. You see the playlist for Genesis and so on and so forth, up to the current of Deuteronomy 9 and 10. I'm going to give about 5 minutes to let people come on. Let me know as you come on. Let me know who you are, where you at. Let me get this. Druid State. What is this called? That under something. Shade. This Connecticut rapper. Now, as far as commenting, while I'm doing the live, while I'm doing reading, let's try to keep it within the subject matter. My screen is cracked, so I can't see exactly what everybody's saying. I think we got Grand Rising Dwayne. How you doing on Facebook? So we're Facebook and YouTube, so everybody won't see everybody's comment. And Henrico, Virginia. All right. So we're going to keep the subject matter on the subject matter until we move on to our just general question and answer. Okay, don't know how that's in reference to what we're talking about. Indiana. Appreciate that, Matt. Nigeria. Nigeria's on my list to go back to at some point, next 10 years or so. Actually, less than 10 years. Y'all need to do something about that traffic in Lagos. Lincoln, Nebraska. All right. I know today's live is a little later than normal. As some of you guys know, we got a little side swipe on the bike while we was in San Diego, so I had to take it into the shop and everything, let them take a look at it. So that's why we're starting late today. Wind up being there a hell of a lot longer. What's up, Michael? Wind up being there longer than I anticipated. But it's all right. It's going to be all right. Christina's in Ohio. I got family up there. Up in Dayton, Ohio. Don't forget to share the video. Share all the videos that we post. All the other videos that I post every day. Like I just posted about 4 videos earlier today. Share all the videos. Share all the videos. You left religion when you was 12. My parents tried to force me to be a Christian and I refused. Outstanding. Okay, that's 2 people in Nigeria. We international. Utah. I'll be in Utah in July for one night in Salt Lake City. Grand Rising Jeremy, thank you for that. At least the video was pretty. I enjoyed that one. I had just got to Atlanta from New Orleans, so that's why it was dark. All right, we're gonna get started here in a few seconds. We're doing Deuteronomy 9 and 10 today. 9 and 10. We should be back on the regulars for our lives. now that that cross-country motorcycle ride is over, we should be back to our normal lives. But even when we go on trips, I'll make sure that I plan the trips so that we can still, I make sure that we still get our lives in at decent time frame. West Coast times will just mess me up. Thank you, Jeremy. It was a great road trip. Had a good time. Faced some weather though, but it was a good time. Grand Rising, Aaron. Thank you. I appreciate that. What's your profession and what do you study? Very first level of knowledge. From Malawi. Cool. I think you're the first person ever from Malawi. Well, my profession, technically, I guess the only way to say it is an entrepreneur because I have a cigar company right now. I used to have we closed down the cigar lounge, but we still have the cigar company. I owned a popcorn shop for about 12 years, owned a gym and fitness company for about 8-9 years, had an IT consulting firm for about 4 years, but I really hate IT, so I got out of that one. And before all of that, I was in the Marine Corps. But I've been a nerd my whole life. Jesus' birthday was Monday. Yeah, a lot of people believe his birthday was April 1st, is what a lot of people go by that one. Yep. Got to make sure we get it all in. Appreciate that. You're welcome. All right. It's time to get started. We are Deuteronomy. So we did 7 and 8 last week. Now we're on 9 and 10. It's going to start out like we're going to talk about some good fighting, but then we're going to get a lot of rehashing about Moses kind of putting his resume out there and making sure the people stay in fear of this deity. All right, we're going to see how this guy doesn't love in these 2 chapters, and we're going to see some funky math and some funky science going on in these 2 chapters. So let's go ahead and get started. And as we read each and every word so that we know it's good to go, so that we are stronger in our deconstruction is the purpose that we do this. So to begin, chapter 9. O hear, O Israel. This is Moses speaking to the people. O hear, O Israel, you are to cross over the Jordan today and go in to dispossess nations greater than mightier than yourself, cities great and fortified to the heavens, a people great and tall, the descendants of Achanim, who you know and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand up against the descendants of Anak? Therefore, understand today that the Lord your God is he who goes over before you as a consuming fire and will destroy them and bring them down before you. So you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly as the Lord has said to you. So Moses is making some big promises here. And one thing that's interesting, the descendants of Anak are supposed to be giants. Now, according to this book, the giants were supposedly destroyed during the flood, but we see that there are multiple giants still within the Old Testament post-flood. Anak was supposed to be one of them. Now, in the books of Enoch, you had Og. We talked about him a few weeks ago. You had Og, who was tied to the top of the ark. And so the giants would have still lived through Og. But the book of Enoch is not supposed to be king. But these people were reading Enoch, thinking Enoch was, valid. So for them, having giants, hey, little monarch. So having giants after that fact was not uncommon for them because they had an explanation. And if you talk to Christians today, because they don't deal with the book of Enoch, they will say that they will make up things like there was a second incursion of the sons of God to the daughters of men. You know, they will make up other reasons, rationale. They will say that okay, grainy and blurry. I'm gonna clean the camera for a second. Maybe that'll help. It's Georgia Polly. Let me know if that's better. But they have all their excuses as to why, in order to try to validate this guy still being that giant still existed. How you doing? But yeah, we got like the David and Goliath. Well, the David and Goliath wouldn't be so. Yeah, you wouldn't have that story if there wasn't if that wasn't going on. But lagging a little. I'm outside, so the Wi-Fi is inside. This little monarch butterfly just you want to come over here and be friends with everybody? Y'all just saw him. See him? He knows as hell. You better stay. Hey, you trying to get my coffee. You doing all right. So anyway, so Anak is supposed to still be this guy. I mean, be a giant. And the Anakites are supposed to be giants. Now, in some versions of this, it'll say that he built these. They had walls that reached the sky. They didn't have airplanes back then, so I don't know why they had walls that reached the sky. But he's making this promise that he's going to go and destroy these people. And you think that he would destroy these people for the love of Israel, of his Israelites, but we're going to find out later that's not the reason. So to continue, do not think in your heart after the Lord your God has cast them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness, the Lord brought me into possession to possess this land. But it is because of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driven them out before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your uprightness of your heart that you go in to possess their land, but because the wickedness of the nations that the Lord God drives them out from before you, and that he may fulfill the word which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore, understand that the Lord God is not giving you this good land to possess because you are righteous, but you are a stiff-necked people. So basically what he's saying is that I'm not giving you this land because I love y'all, because y'all my people. I'm giving you this land because I hate them. I hate those other people. So it's like a parent telling you, well, I'm giving you these presents, or I'm giving you this activity, or paying for this or paying for that, not out of the love for you, but because I can't stand these other people. That's why I'm going to do this for you. Like it's like when you go vote, some people like to say that you vote for the lesser of two evils, but in this, so he's saying, I'm giving this to you because you're the lesser of two evils, and because you're a stiff-necked people. And many theorize that the stiff-necked people is a saying that means that because the people wouldn't bow down, they didn't know when to pray, when to praise this God, when to believe in this God, when to be faithful to this God. But these are the allotted of Yahweh, so he has to contend with them no matter what. So now he's saying that he's doing this because he don't like these people, right? Later on, either in this chapter or the next, he's going to talk about how he loves all the people, which would then be just a straight up lie, right? I'm going to try to go back and forth. I can't see your comments too well because of this crack in my screen. The seed of giants was still in man at the time. How can it be? Noah was supposed to be pure. His wife's supposed to be pure. His sons are supposed to have been pure. They supposed to have been from the line of Seth. They supposedly didn't engage and weren't Nephilim. So supposedly those people were wiped out. The giants should have been wiped out. They should have never existed after the flood. But we just this book contradicts itself consistently, so it's not a surprise that there will still be giants. But like I said, these people still believed in the at the time of this was written between the 700 BCE and 500 BCE. They also knew the stories of Enoch, or what would become the book of Enoch, and so they believed that Noah strapped a giant on the ark, so you still get giants that way. So they didn't have a problem writing about giants, and giants still in existence, and it makes their story better if they conquered the giants. So to continue, remember, do not forget how you provoked the Lord your God to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that you departed from the land of Egypt until you came to this place. You have been rebellious against the Lord. Also in Horeb, you provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry enough with you to have destroyed you. When you went into the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant which the Lord had made with you, then I stayed on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and neither ate bread nor drank water. Then the Lord delivered to me 2 tablets of stone written with the finger of God, and on them were all the words which the Lord has spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire and the day of the assembly. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. Now, mind you, he is talking to people who were less than 20 years old or not born at the time frame that these things happened. If you recall, when they first got to the promised land and they sent the spies in and they had their little issue then, he told them that none of you who came out of Egypt will see the promised land. All of you guys are going to die. And even Moses, you're going to die too. Aaron, you're going to die as well. That comes later as to why they died, but you're going to die as well. So he's talking to a bunch of people who were less than 20 years old at the time frame that all of this stuff happening, that they were doing that for the majority of the disobedience that was going on. So they are paying for their parents' disobedience. Let me see some of the comments here. Your whole opinion. Dude, the Bible is not history of Israel. So, and it's not my opinion. This is what your Bible says. This is what your Bible says. This is what archaeology says. Archaeology says when Enoch was written, and what the Enoch says about giants is what Enoch says about giants. You just do mental gymnastics to try to make this fit for you. Why? I ask that question quite often. Now, he called bullcrap on the 40 days and 40 nights with no water. This is defying all sense of biology that we know today. There is absolutely no way he goes up there for 40 days and 40 nights, doesn't eat bread, doesn't drink water. And in the first part of Exodus, he didn't make all that big ass statement. But now he's making this whole 40 days and 40 nights of no bread, no water. And we know that the human body, you might be able to go 40 days without food, and you will be sick as hell. But there's absolutely no way you living in a desert, you climbed up this mountain, and you went 40 days without water. You will die without water. And if you're not eating fruits or vegetables and getting water from what you're eating, then you're absolutely going to die within about 7 to 10 days without any substance and no water. So that in itself is a bunch of BS that he's proclaiming. The excuse I've been told is that he survived because he's 100% God and 100% one. Moses is 100% God. Yeah, nah. Nobody teaches that. But people will believe this simply because it's written in this book. And there have been many people who try to test these theories, and they go and do it and they die. They absolutely die. All right. So he's talking to these people who weren't doing all the provoking, the majority of the provoking. He's making up this big lie about him, this big fish story about him not eating or drinking for 40 days and 40 nights. He claims that the 10 Commandments were written by this God, which is an interesting thing because, as we know, and he's going to get into it a little bit later on, those original 10 Commandments, throw them on the ground. But then when he did the next 10 Commandments, those next 10 were not the exact same as the first 10, and they are very much different. But they kind of skirt over that. Most Christians will skip past that part because they don't want to admit, Christians and Jews will skip that part because they don't want to admit that the first 10 and the second 10 don't match. And if this is supposed to be God, you would think that the first 10 and the second 10 would also match, would be the exact same thing. But, the Bible got a Bible. 12, verse 12. Then the Lord said to me, arise and go down quickly from here, for your people whom you brought out of Egypt have acted corruptly. Why is now this God blaming, saying Moses brought these people out of Egypt? According to this story, God did all the work to bring them out. But I get what he's saying. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them, and they have made for themselves a molded image. This is the golden calf. Furthermore, the Lord spoke to me and saying, I have seen this people, and indeed they are stiff-necked people. Let me alone, that I may destroy them and blot out their names from under heaven, and will make you a nation mightier and greater than they. So basically, he's telling Moses, let me kill all of them. And then I will take you, Moses, your old ass, with your Canaanite wife, and then later on you get a different wife. I mean, not Canaanite, Midianite wife. And later on he gets a different wife. And mind you, the Midianites were people who did worship Yahweh, the storm god. So there's a close enough similarity there. And he's going to make a mighty nation out of Noah and start over. But Noah has to talk this God down from his anger moment, which is an interesting thing, because how can a God be God if you got to be talked down out of your anger? So I turned and came down from the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked, and behold, you had sinned against the Lord your God, had made for yourselves a molded calf. You had turned aside quickly, and the way which the Lord had commanded you. Then I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my 2 hands and broke them before your eyes. And I fell down before the Lord. As at the last 40 days, as at the first 40 days and 40 nights, I neither ate bread nor drank water. So he's making this bullshit claim again. Because of all your sins which you committed in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Which, if something other force can provoke a God, can cause a God to do something, then that is not God, because that force outside of that God would be more powerful than that God. So the emotions of this God are more powerful than the actual God itself, if he can be provoked, and as we're going to see here, then get talked down out of his anger. For I was afraid of the anger and the hot displeasure with which the Lord was angry with you to destroy you. But the Lord listened to me at that time also. And the Lord was very angry with Aaron and would have destroyed him. So I prayed for Aaron also at the time. If you go back to Exodus, at no time during that whole sequence that this God threatened Aaron. He never said anything to Aaron, never had displeasure with Aaron, didn't threaten his life. So this is like rehashing the story and then adding your own little things here, because he didn't say anything about Aaron life being in danger. But you know how it is. 40 years have gone by, so you gotta up the story. It can't be the same way. It said, then I took your sin, the calf which you made, and burned it with fire, and crushed it, and ground it very small, until it was fine as dust. And I threw the dust into the brook that descended from the mountain. If you go back to Exodus, when it talks about this, he said he created a little fire to burn the gold. But then he said he mixed the gold, the ashes of the gold, into water and made the Israelites drink it. That's the first discrepancy. In this one, he's saying that he poured the dust into the water, right? Into a stream that flowed down the mountain. Now, some Christians say, well, he poured it in the stream and they had to drink from the stream. But that ain't what it said in Exodus. It said they made them drink it. Like right then, right there, drink this, right? Not pouring it down the river. Now, here's some weird science that's going on. A house, if this house catch on fire, its burn temperature is around 1500 degrees, right? In order to burn gold, melt gold, because gold doesn't burn and turn to ash. In order to melt gold, you need about 2000 degrees of heat. So he made a little fire and it had to be 2000 degrees. That means you got that. You ever see when they're making, they're smelting metals and they got the dude pumping, keep forcing that air in there in order to keep the flame, make the flame hotter and hotter and hotter. He would have had to been doing that and make a 2000 degree fire in order to melt gold, let alone burn it to ashes. And then so you got to even be hotter in order to burn the gold into ash and then grind the ash into dust. So he's changing the narrative and doing some weird science thing going on here that you can't do. So you either made them drink it or it went down the river. And you made a fire that was hotter than 2000 degrees in order to burn it. I'm calling bullshit on this. It is utter revisionist history. Because Moses, at this time frame, Moses is pissed because he's been told that he ain't gonna go into the promised land and he's gonna die because he took credit for making the rocks spill out water and didn't do it the way this guy told him to do it, right? So a bunch of bullshit. And then he has to talk this guy down. Thus I prostrated myself before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. I kept prostrating myself because the Lord had said he would destroy you. Therefore I prayed to the Lord and I said, oh Lord God, do not deny your people and your inheritance. Deny your people, your inheritance, whom you have redeemed through your greatness, whom you have brought out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did not look on the stubbornness of the people, of this people. The crack is in the screen right now. Stubbornness of these people, or on the wickedness of their sins. Least the land from which you brought us should say, because the Lord was not able to bring them to the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. Yet they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out of your mighty power and by your outstretched arm. So God pissed off. I'm gonna kill everybody. Moses, I'm start over with you. Moses had to talk this God off his ledge and remind him once again, because he's used this mind trick before, this Jedi mind trick of saying that, hey, if you kill all of them, the other people in Egypt are gonna say, look at them fools. They left us because God said so. And then God took them out to the wilderness and they all died. That's a weak, interesting God there. So he reverse psychology this God by the threat of what other people will think about him. So this God cares what other people think about him, and his handling of his own people. If you're supposed to be the sovereign only God, you should not care what other people or other gods say about you. You should only be concerned about what you're doing. If you make a decision, that's your decision. What does it matter if the Egyptians say, look at what that God did? You're not vying for them anyway. He doesn't want them. If he wanted them, he would have converted the Egyptians, but he didn't. And even though the book says that there are some Egyptians who left with him, the overwhelming majority of people in Egypt at this fictitious time stayed in Egypt. But mind you, this is supposed to be happening around, oh my God, that one time, don't stop. This is supposed to have been happening in and around the 1500s BCE. So, no, not 1500 BCE. This is supposed to be happening somewhere around the 1200 BCE, I think. But nope. And before we go to chapter 10, check a couple of statements and questions. Oh, I'm talking about somebody else. The Bible says that it was so. 40 days and 40 nights is very clear. It was, if we are to worship God, then we are to believe the biblical text as it is written. If it's written incorrectly, if it's written incorrectly, it's unworthy of dictating our worship. And it is written incorrectly. Very much incorrectly. Just showed you some incorrect, how it's incorrect, how it changes the story, turned it into a big fish story, how the math just ain't math, and the science show hell ain't science based on this God. So you should be walking away from it then. Like you said, Moses asked them, and he let them frustrate him for the first time. He told them to hit it. Right, and he hit it the second time and said, right, exactly. Once you know him. Nah, this guy doesn't tolerate any ignorance. Moses did all that stuff for him, and then the one time Moses, instead of speaking to the rock, he hit the rock with the staff, and then took some credit. This guy gets into his little, hey, nobody gets credit but me. Don't be taking none of my credit, and you didn't even do it the way I told you to do it. And think about that. Moses didn't do it the way he told him to do it, but it still happened anyway. So you can do things outside of the way this guy tells you to do things, and you're still gonna get your results. You understand what I'm saying? Just it's like all these people, they run around and they believe that only through their God that this is the only way that you can, have miracles and have a great life and get healings and all these sorts of things. But yet people go about it different ways. People pray to Brahma and they get healed. People pray to Allah and they get healed. To hell with the medicines. To hell with the doctors and the nurses. Forget all of that. Forget about eating your way into health. We just pray, but all of them praying to their deity and they claim miracle healings. So God's way ain't the right way, and it ain't the only way. And if you got different versions saying different things, that in itself is a problem. You missed the chapter. Yeah, if you just get in here, you missed chapter 9, but you can always go back and rewatch it. Yeah, and this perfect God needs a human voice. If I can talk to this God and talk him out of his anger, then he's not God. He can't be a God. You can just pull the okie doke on him. And then, of course, a Christian or a person who believes in this book will be like, well, God's ways isn't man's ways, and God's mind is, greater than man, and he the creator, he can do whatever he wants to do, and all this stuff. Sorry, but no, you can't. You can't do whatever you want to do just because you claim to be the creator. It doesn't work that way. And then he's worried about what the neighbors are going to say, right? Like, and I know people are like that. People are that way, you know. They don't want to do certain things to their house or their yard, or don't want to dress a certain way or act a certain way or have certain events or whatever, because they're concerned about what the neighbor is going to say. You know, they do things, or they do things and they hope that the neighbor looks at it and be like, "Oh, that's nice." They're so worried about what other people think. Why is this guy worried about what the Egyptians are going to think? Right? That's nonsense to me. If I'm the God of the Israelites, I don't care what the Egyptians say. I don't care what the Canaanites say. I don't care what any of these people say. If I decide to kill all of them and start over, I'm God. It's my business. I do what I want to do. Right? Isn't that what y'all always say? God can do what he want to do. See? That was God telling me that I was right. that was the Egyptian goddess shoe blowing the wind, saying, "You damn right. If I want to make that damn wind chime, I'm gonna make it chime." Let's go. Let's get chapter 10. Let's get chapter 10. Let's get chapter 10. Let's get into chapter 10. It's, to me, the utter foolishness to believe in this book that was written all these times ago when people didn't even understand science, the science that we have and how things function. Is no. You wouldn't read a science book from the 1600s and say it's correct, it's all right, when you know we have um, elevated our knowledge of science since the 1600s. You wouldn't accept that, but people accept it from this book. So in chapter 10, now you think we started out talking about he's gonna kill some giants, right? You think we're gonna get into the giant killing, especially after he said thou shalt not kill? We're gonna get into some giant killing, but we're not. We're not. Moses is gonna keep lamenting because Moses is pissed. I'm telling you, Deuteronomy is really about Moses being pissed off that he can't go into the promised land. So chapter 10. At that time the Lord said to me, hew for yourself 2 tablets of stone, like the first, and come up to me on the mountain, and make yourself an ark of wood, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. Now, if you go back to Exodus and you look at it, them 10 commandments from the first are different from the second, right? Matter of fact, let me see. What were the commandments on the second set of tablets? Oh, that didn't come out right. What were the commandments on the second set of tablets? Let's go take a look. Let's see if we can find them there. I know it's Exodus 34. Okay, let's just do that. Bible Gateway, Exodus 34. Let's scroll down. Let's find it. That's the I'm making a covenant. Okay. So the Lord said, I'm making a new covenant before you, before all your people. I will do wonders never before done. I will make you obey what I command you today. I will give you all the people, kill all the people, and be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you're going, or they will snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their stones, their sacred, cut down their ash groves. Do not worship any of their other gods. One of those new commandments was be careful to not make any treaties with the other people. Another one was celebrate the festivals of unleavened bread for 7 days. Eat bread made with yeast, and I command you. Didn't say anything about that in the first 10. The first offspring of every womb belongs to me, including the firstborn males of your livestock, whether from the herd or the flock. Redeem your firstborn donkey with the lamb, but if you do not redeem them, break its neck and redeem all your firstborn sons. Now, this is when we covered that part. That was before he said the Levites would be the representation. So this was the baby killer. Celebrate the festival of weeks. That wasn't on the first 10 commandments. Do not offer blood sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. Wasn't on those first 10 commandments. Bring your best fruits. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Wasn't on the first commandments. So if he was going to write, so this part is just a straight up lie. He just straight lied, right? I think we just showed that he just straight lied, because he said the two tones make it first, like the first. Come to me unto the mountain, I will make the ark, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablet. And in that Exodus story, it's Moses was writing it. Now he's saying that he wrote it, that God wrote it. Who wrote the damn thing? Who wrote it? You see how it contradicts yourself, because this is being written by multiple people over a almost 300-year period, right? From like the late 700 BC, early 700 BCE to the late 500 BCE you have the writings of this. So it's been written over a long period of time. And so they're not going back and checking. They just writing this shit based on what they think sounds better for the people of their day. Because if you write something today, the culture is going to be different. You can still be in America, right? You can still be Americans. But the culture of America 200 years from now is going to be vastly different from the culture today. Just like today's culture is vastly different from the culture of America 200 years ago. So the writings are very much different. And this is why you have so many contradictions and revisionist stories in this book, right? So to continue, because he's going to tell another lie, right? So now this is Moses talking. So I made an ark of acacia wood, hewed 2 tablets of stone like the first, and went up the mountain having the 2 tablets in my hand. And he wrote on the tablets according to the first writings of the 10 commandments, which the Lord has spoken to you in the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them to me. In Exodus, it said Moses wrote those second 10 commandments. In Exodus, it said that a master craftsman built the ark of acacia wood, not Moses. In Exodus, it said that he brought the tablets down, and the ark was built after he brought them down and then placed into the ark. In this one, Moses is saying that he made the ark and took it up the mountain and then placed them in there. You see what I'm saying? They're telling a different story here. And then I came back down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark, which I had made, and these are just as the Lord commanded me. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Moses is claiming now that he made the dang ark. You know why? Because when he first did it, anybody who's alive right now, except for Caleb, Joshua, except for Caleb and Joshua, and Moses are the only ones who would still be alive at the time frame that happened, right? Now, Moses claimed that he made the ark. So there's no one to say, oh, the master craftsman who actually made it is not alive to say that, nope, I made it. So there's no one to contend with it. This is why so many things in the New Testament, Old Testament, they're written so much further down the line because there's no one who can contest the bullshit that somebody's putting out. It's kind of like on the video that one of the videos I did today that you guys are going to go watch after this. That guy, Pastor Greg Locke, claimed that, oh no, the traffic was fine when we had this event. The police said that it was great. The sheriff said it was great. But then the sheriff came back and said, no, I didn't. He did a video where they had a video where the sheriff was like, no, I ain't say that. That man lied. See, it can be contested because two people still around. But when you write a story 40 years later, 100 years later, 200 years later, no one is around who can contest that story. So all the people have is what you said. And that's basically what Moses is doing. He's taking credit for shit that he didn't do. And he's revising the story. Got that big story. So to continue. Now the children of Israel journeyed from the well of Bnei Jacan to Mosera, where Aaron died and where he was buried. And Eleazar, his son, ministered as the priest in his stead. From there, they journeyed to Gudgotha, and from Gudgotha to Jabbatha, a land of rivers of water. At that time, the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister to him and bless his name to this day. And that's also where he then switched it up and said, your firstborn sons, because in Exodus, it said, just like you kill all the firstborn animals and sacrifice them to me, so shall you do with your firstborn sons. They belong to me. It is at that place when he then changed the script and said, well, no, the Levites will represent the firstborn sons. And if there's not enough Levites, then all you have to do is pay, I think it's 25 or 30 pieces of silver, according to the temple shekel, something like that, in order to redeem your son. So this is why you have child sacrifice in the with the ancient Israelites. And this is something that when Hezekiah, Josiah, and Ezra was re-editing this and rewriting this, they made those changes so that, because they knew their people was doing child sacrifice. So therefore, the Levite has no portion nor inheritance with his brethren. The Lord is his inheritance, just as the Lord is your God promised him. So the Levites don't get any land. If you remember, they are separating all the lands that they're going to go and conquer. Certain 2.5 groups get to keep some land on one side of the Jordan. The others get the other and a half get the land. The 10.5 get the land on the other, on the promised land part, and they get to divvy up the land according to their number. And so, but the Levites, because they're going to be the priests, they don't get any land inheritance. But when we was going through Leviticus, we saw that they get major bank and animals and stuff from the people. So their inheritance is the Lord's, but they getting bank. They getting that money. And this was a nepotism thing, because now Aaron is getting, these are Aaron's folks. Let me see here. Yeah, Greg Locke. You gotta check out the video I did with him. I did sketch in stitch in a bunch of his little videos. He's something. Yeah, see, all of this is, when I was growing up, I didn't have the internet. When I was on my journey, there was no internet. So I was reading books, Library of Congress, going to different countries, all kind of stuff. A lot of the Bible are true, the prophets and whatnot. Correct. Yeah. It's attributed to prophets, but kind of like the book Isaiah. The book of Isaiah was written in 3 parts over a period of about 200 years. And so there are different, unless Isaiah lived 200 years, which he didn't, there are many different authors of just the one book, Isaiah, but they will say that it's Isaiah. And the Gospels were unnamed initially, but then but then they named them. The Romans named them later. That one of the kind of foods they eat was an edible drug, something like peyote. It's possible. I've heard that. People have said that, but I haven't seen any like factual information on that. So let's go back to because some of the comments are off subject. So we're going to go back to it until we finish, and then we can go off subject. All right. Where was I? Promising verse 10. Yep, verse 10. That's one. So to continue, let me scroll up beyond this. I got to take my computer, see if I can get this screen replaced tomorrow. So the land that was promised to him. Yeah. As at the first time, I stayed in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. The Lord also heard me at that time, and the Lord chose not to destroy you. Then the Lord said to me, arise, begin your journey before the people, that you may go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. So he had to pray for him again. And now, Israel, what does the Lord require of you? Here it goes. Here comes the fear. What does the Lord your God require of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways and to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your hearts and all your soul, and to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command you today for your good. So anytime you're dealing with like a Hebrew Israelites and they say that we don't have to follow the 10 commandments, keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes. And you remember last week we talked about it, said that you also got to keep all his decrees and rituals. So they're supposed to keep all of them. And that's the Jews too. And technically the Christians should be keeping them as well, because Jesus said, I come not to take one tittle from the law. But anyway, they're supposed to keep them, all the commandments and the statutes, which I command you today for your good. Indeed, heaven and the highest heavens belong to the Lord your God, also the earth with all that is in it. The Lord delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, you above all people, as it is this day. Now, of course, later on in Deuteronomy, we're going to find out that Elion gave the Israelites Yahweh as his portion when he was divvying it up to the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. So he gave Yahweh the Israelites. So it wasn't a choice. Therefore, circumcise your foreskin of your heart and be stiff-necked no longer. I don't know how you circumcise. I'm guessing that's metaphorical. That's why they got circumcised the ping. For the Lord your God is God of gods. How can the Lord your God be God of gods if the other gods don't exist? And lords of lords if other lords don't exist? Now you can take that and say, well, he's the God among, other guys are fake, but nah. This is because they believe in henotheism at the time frame, meaning that they believe in their God as their primary God. This is the God for us, but they accepted that other people's gods existed. This is why in Daniel, when Gabriel goes and fights the prince of Persia, which is an angelic being from the god Shamash, and he gets his ass whooped, and then he got to call in the backup of Michael to help him defeat the prince of Persia. This is indicating their belief in the fact that Shamash is a real god who had an angel that he called the prince of Persia and fought against Yahweh's angel, Gabriel, and then fought Yahweh's angel, Michael, as they did. Like I used to be a WWE fan when it was still WWF. So they had one of them lopsided tag team matches, like when Andre the Giant used to fight two people. So they had one of them. So he needed two of his to beat one of Shamash's. So to continue, Lord of Lords, God of gods, Lord, okay. The great God, almighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He shows some partiality, but now he's finna lie. He administers justice for the fatherless and the widows and loves the stranger, giving him food and clothing. Therefore, love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Now, if the Jewish people actually read this and believed in this, should not they stop all the bombings and everything with the Palestinians? If you're supposed to love the stranger and the strangers that live in your land because they were strangers in the land of Egypt, shouldn't they love them? Shouldn't they take care of them? But this is so how easily people forget what happened to them. Like if you talk to a lot of black people today, they'll say that, oh man, today we still in slavery. Okay. I'm not one to go for that bullshit. Slavery, the economic situations that black people are in today is nothing like the slavery of my great great grandparents. It's not even comparable. I won't even use the word slavery to try to make it similar. You would think the Israelites, the people in Israel right now, would look at the genocide that was happening to their grandparents, not even as far back, but to their grandparents, and say, we know what they did to us in Europe, to our grandparents in Europe. Why are we going to do the same thing to another group of people? You shouldn't, right? But people forget. People get comfortable in their day, their time, right? Like I look at my mom, and sometimes I'm looking at my mom. She's 77 years old, somewhere around there, 77, 78, something like that. Let's see, I'm 77. So she's 77, turned 78 this year. And I look in her eyes and I'm like, this woman grew up as a child and became an adult during Jim Crow. I can never ever fix my mouth to say that the racism and the life that I've led and the things that I've seen are comparable to what she saw, to how she had to live growing up in Carrollton, Georgia, right? She growing up in all up in Jim Crow, where as an adult, she had to call a little white boy or girl sir or ma'am. Where if somebody said that she did something, she couldn't stand in a court and defend herself. That they still had laws that said that she couldn't testify against a white person. There's absolutely, even though I faced some racism growing up, there's absolutely no way I would ever compare it to hers. Right? And most people forget things like that. And they run around the day talking about some, oh, it's so this, it's so that. I'm not saying that there aren't issues, but god dang, it ain't like it was back in the 60s, the 50s, the 40s. No, not even comparable. So you would think these people, this God is saying love the strangers. You think people over there wouldn't say let's carpet bomb these people. Let's kill, the men, the women, the children, the old people, everybody. But this book contradicts itself so much. Because what do we read in chapter 9? In chapter 9, this God is given he's going to help them to destroy the Anakites, not because he loves the Israelites, but because he hates the Anakites. Right? He hates the Anakites. And then you're going to tell them to love the strangers, love the foreigners. You see what I'm saying? This God has a contradictive mind. I might have to make that a whole separate video just for that. This he has a very contradictive mind in what he says he should you should do, and in how he acts. Right? And even about himself. I hate the Anakites, but I love the strangers, and I love them, and I love the widows, and I love. You don't. You love like an abusive husband. That's how you love. That's how this guy loves, like an abusive husband. But let's finish this chapter. We only got a couple of verses, and this chapter will be over. You shall fear the Lord your God, and you shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast, and take oaths in his name. I thought you weren't supposed to take oaths in this book, but okay. And take oaths in his name. He is your praise, and he is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things with which your eyes have seen. Yeah, like when we asked for food, when they asked for food, he sent 1.4 trillion quail and have them stuffing themselves till they was nauseated. Yeah. Your father went down to Egypt with 70 persons, and now the Lord your God has made you as the stars in heaven in multitude. I'm just gonna say that he just making an analogy right there, and not gonna go in hard on them not being able to look at the stars and say that, nah, there's a hell of a lot more stars than people that you only got like almost 2 million people here, you know, but the stars are far greater than 2 million. Even when you look up, and you got to think about it, at their time frame, we didn't have all this light pollution and we didn't have all this air pollution. So you can imagine what the sky looked like at their time frame. So I'm not gonna say they can't count. They just use that they just using the as just you are like as you are like this and just as, because I think they've defaulted enough in those two chapters to show that they full shit. But as we see with these two chapters, this guy lies. They still got giants. Moses is revamping the story. Moses is telling a whopper that he went 40 days and 40 nights without food and water, claiming to have made the ark, but he didn't, claiming that the 10 commandments on the first group and the second group were the same, but they weren't. Claiming that he burnt all the gold, the ash, and ground it up and poured it in a stream, when the first time he said that he burnt it into ash. He made it into powder and put it in the stream. Then in this version, he took that, made it into ash, and then, well, he made it into powder, but in the first version, he just burnt it to ash and put it in their water and made them drink it right then. So just changing the story. And if this is supposed to be the inerrant word of God, then the story should never change. If they're going to tell a story that happened 40 years ago, that story should still be the exact same way today. You know, it should have been 40 years later. He should have been able to tell the same story. But, you know, he old. You know, old people don't get, you know, the older you get, your mind don't work right. And he basically just lambasting the people. You know, hey, y'all ain't worthy of nothing. And God ain't doing this because he loves you, because he hates you. But then later on, God loves you. Come on, man. This is why we walk away from this book. Like, this book, somebody said it on a comment of a video yesterday. This book is more like Aesop fables. You know, it's just going on, and then it's just changing the story. So why we even bother? Yeah, it's why we walk away from it. So now for at least an hour or so, we can talk about any subject matter whatsoever. I'm glad you guys are here. I appreciate everybody. I understand there's a little bit of a lag, so I will try to do this as best as possible. Please continue. Thank you guys for sharing all the videos. You know, sharing makes this possible. I never asked you guys for anything from yourselves. except to share. That's it. Share the videos. Let's see what some of the comments. Tell the story about Moses used TNT on the people praying. Use TNT to are you talking about when he came down the mountain, saw that they worshiped the golden calf, and then he killed 3,000 people? You talking about that story? Which this guy said thou should not kill, but oh, y'all worshiping the golden calf. 3,000 y'all gotta die. That's some bullshit. How you gonna have a thing say thou shalt not kill, but then you go and kill 3,000 people simply because they started worshiping a golden calf, which they had just came out of Egypt. So they were accustomed to worshiping a calf, right? It was the year of the bull. And really, some people will look at that and say they were moving from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries. So they go from the bull to the ram. And that's what that identifies as. That's what that identifies as that. But that you got to go through some turmoil. You got to kill 3,000 people in order to move into that next age. And right now we're supposed to be going into the age of Aquarius. And this is based off the great year, the wobble of the earth. I don't put a whole lot of stock into those things, into that kind of stuff. Like the sun, the moon, the stars ain't got shit to do with how my behavior. I'm just clicking because I can't even really see what y'all wrote. My pleasure. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here. That's why most of everybody else is here. But yeah, this book constantly contradicts itself over and over again. Moses went high on the mountain in salvation from a burning bush. It could be a metaphor, but that story is meant to be taken literally. Like the people who wrote that meant it literally. Just because people today say that this is a metaphor or that is a metaphor, that's an easy excuse to not have to reconcile the fact that these were believed to be literal things. So him going up there and burning bush, that was supposed to be literal, not a metaphor at all. Is it true that Moses was the first Muslim? That's what I've heard. I don't know. I've never studied Islam that deeply, but that is one of the things that I've heard Islamic people say. But that actually wouldn't work because according to their storyline, they come from Ishmael. So technically Ishmael should be the first Muslim. And then Ishmael, while he was out at the well, he had 12 sons. They became kings and all this kind of stuff. So I've heard some Muslims say that, but people like to grab these figures who are well known and try to attach them to their own beliefs to make it fit. It says he spoke in metaphors and parables. It says that Jesus spoke in metaphors and parables, but that doesn't mean everything he said was metaphoric or a parable. So you can't claim everything, but it doesn't say anything about Moses speaking in metaphors and parables. You can't take one dude's words and put it on the second dude. No. According to the people who believe this story when they wrote it, and that's one thing that I do. I don't look at how people have changed the story. I look at how those people at that time frame would have accepted the story. When people say that, oh, you're reading out of context, the context should always be, what did the people who wrote it at that time frame believe? That's the true context of any of it. And they believe that bush was burning, and God spoke through the bush, and then he passed by, and Moses just saw it back. Yeah, it constantly contradicts itself over and over again. Yeah, the problem with metaphors is it leaves so much gray space. And that's the problem. That's one of the problems I had with Jesus. He left so much gray space instead of just saying, this, that, this, that. Fuck all these parables. Just go straight to the point. If he wanted women to be equated equally with men, just say it. If you didn't want slavery, just say it. You know, you ain't got to go through all these parables and all that. That in God, whether slave or bondman, whether male or female, you're all the children of God. No, hell no. Say that nobody should own anybody. Say that. Just say it. If you can say don't wear two types of linen, then you can say don't own anybody. Treat women equally. Women are equal to men. Just say it. That's why a man wrote it during the time frame of his culture and made it fit his culture. I don't like that statement. Let me tell you why I don't like that statement. The use of the term just God. Are you talking about Allah? Are you talking about Enlil? Are you talking about Shamash? Are you talking about Shango or Ogun? Are you talking about Brahma? Who are you talking about? Do I believe in any of those? Hell no. Do I believe there could possibly be an intelligent designer? Possibly. Can you prove it? No. And if there is an intelligent designer, it's none of these emotional gods that everybody seems to have and everybody seems to create, because they're creating gods based on who they are, how they believe, how they feel, right? They created Yahweh as a storm deity because of what they thought about the storms and how storms came about and what the meanings of a storm was. That's not a God who created the universe. A God who, if there is an intelligent God that created the universe, then it would not be ruled by emotions. It cannot be ruled by emotions. There would be no anger nor love. None of those emotions would have to be in play, because then it is controlled by those emotions. And therefore, the emotions are more powerful. So, an intelligent designer can never have anything cause it to do anything. It would just do things out of doing it. You wouldn't be able to convince it. Moses changes this guy's mind. Abraham barters with this God. There's always some human who barters with this God and convinces this God to do something, right? You couldn't pray to this God and then it does something for you, because then it will be compelled by your prayers or compelled by its affections towards you. So no, the universe is just the universe, and it functions just how it functions. You want to lose weight? Calories in minus calories out equals your weight. If you want to gain weight, same damn calculations. You want to make more money? Make yourself more valuable to the marketplace. Whatever it is. You sick? If you can get diagnosed for what it is and we have a cure, get cured. If we don't, eat your way into the cure. Food is going to do what food does. American food going to do it a little different. So you might get somebody else's food, but it's cause and effect in everything. Not from God. God can God can never be the causation after creation. Can never be the causation after creation, because then something else will be causing it to do stuff. So that's why I hate that question. Does that mean you don't believe in God? Just be specific. Do you not believe in the Bible God? Do you not believe in Yahweh? Whatever you want to call him. Be specific. I don't try to read between lines when I'm talking to people. I believe everything is a vibration and it takes time to manifest in this dimension. And everything is. Your mental thoughts are vibration, they work on a frequency. And if you put certain actions behind that mental thought, it will manifest itself in reality. And then there are some things that just can't manifest in this reality because of the other laws that work against you. You can mentally think you can just fly up into the sky, but it ain't gonna happen. The laws of Earth ain't gonna allow that to happen. And I don't even like saying God. For me, it's the all. I use the term the all, the hermetic expression of the all. Exodus is a battle between multiple gods. At least a few of the plagues are polemic against Egyptian deities Hapi and the Nile blood. Okay, I'm saying these names wrong. I know Hequet and the frogs. It's human concepts, not deities. All of it is human concepts. None of them deities existed. Rod never existed. Horus never existed. Not as a deity. These are just shit that people made up. Rainy Nutet, which is one of my favorites, she never existed. You know, I like the story behind her and the fact that they sang her song in Madagascar too. But no, all this stuff is made up. And these people are borrowing stories from other people and putting their own spin on it or just making shit up. There's zero proof of any Israelites as mass slaves in Egypt. No proof of that whatsoever. Because the first time you get anything mentioning an Israelite is 1200 BCE in the Meneptah Stele, and they were in the Levant when that happened, but never enslaved. Now, 200 years later, it may have been a group of people, the worshippers of the Aten in the 1400s, or later on the Hyksos, or the Shashu, or the Midianites, and they combined together after the Bronze Age collapse. Well, as the Bronze Age collapse was happening, when the Phoenicians beat the shit out of the Egyptians and they lost the Levant, and they formulated themselves as Israelites at that time frame. Kind of like 300 years ago, there was no such thing as Americans. There was no such thing as an American 300 years ago. The native people had their own names for who they were, for their individual tribes. There were no Americans. But now, those same native people will call themselves indigenous Americans or Native Americans. That's not what your original name was, or as far back as you may know. So names change, people groups change constantly. But there were no such thing as an Israelite prior to 1200. As far as archaeology, oh shit, it's demonstrating. Spilled a little coffee. The nectar of the god. Can't spill coffee. But no such thing. And at the end of the day, it's just words. My grandmother used to say everything ain't so, and everything, the battle between what you think ain't so. Everything you think ain't so, and everything, the battle between you what you think ain't so. No, it's not. The I am. I don't even like using that one because it's too relatable to Christianity and Judaism. I didn't know that hormones came from Horus. I know the word hours, like the hours in a day, comes from Horus. I've never looked up where the word hormones come from. Oh, I already clicked that one. Oh yeah, coffee is the nectar of the god, especially when you're smoking a cigar. What's crazy is that the Bible borrows concept and mythos from other cultures around them, but yet the pagan stories are false, but the Bible stories are real. This is why I don't argue belief with people, because if you were able to travel back to 3000 BCE and you tried to convince, who would I be talking to in the Levant 3000 BCE? You tried to convince the Arcadians that Ilnana didn't exist. Those people would believe, you couldn't convince them. They wholeheartedly believe Ilnana exists. And if you went over and talked to the Sumerians, I mean, yeah, the Sumerians, it would have been Ishtar. I think that's the way to go. Either Ilnana is, I think Ilnana is the Arcadian name, Ishtar is the Sumerian name. But you would not have been able to convince them. They would have believed it wholeheartedly. If you went back and you found the tribe that lived below Mount Kilimanjaro, I don't know what that god name was, but you would not have been able to convince them. You would not have been able to convince my great, 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 great grandparents that Shango and Ogun and Otomare did not exist, that Mamawata did not exist, because they wholeheartedly believe that Mamawata controlled the rivers and that Shango brought the thunder and the light. Wouldn't be able to convince them. The Pope kissed the feet of the Moors. Can you say something about that? I didn't know the Pope kissed the feet of the Moors. But understand, the Pope is a political position. So the popes have done things out of politics, where certain popes have been more docile towards the Ottomans and the Moors, and then others raged against them. So which pope? And I actually will go do research on it. But it's kind of like when all those other Protestant religious leaders went to the Vatican, like what, about 10, 15 years ago, and all of them kissed the ring of the Pope. Any other time, when they're doing their own thing, they don't follow the decrees of the Pope, but because they were there, politically, they kissed the ring. It's kind of like when I was at an event and old Lizzie was there. I told my commander, I'm not bowing to nobody. That's bullshit. And so they told me to wait. They say mythology is wrong. Passing priests go to theology school, and thoughts are theories to their proving they are myths. How do you know if you don't ask questions? And actually, you're supposed to take a vow before you go to the school, and that no matter what you learn, you will defend the faith. Which is one of the reasons why when the church wanted me to, they wanted to pay for me to go to theology school. I was like, no, I'm not, because I'm not going to vow that. And they were trying to tell me that your faith has to be real strong, because many people walk away from the church when they go to theology school. I believe religion is a crucifix of the mind. It does kill the mind, because you can't critically think and be in a religion. Every cigar needs a good scotch, as long as it's not peaty. But when we was in San Antonio, we got this. It's called Devil's something. The the, the place. It's on East Houston Street. But they make this coffee liqueur. That stuff was so good. I had to buy a bottle of it. But yeah, the current Pope. Okay, I'll research that. I don't see why he would kiss the Moors' feet now. The Moors, don't have any power like that. Yeah, when in Rome, do as the Romans, except there's certain things I just ain't doing. They was like, well, you can't go in. You like, you know how you have all the people walking in, and you got like these kings and princesses and whatever queens, and you supposed to bow and all. I was like, shh, I'm not bow to no man. One thing used to promote Christianity is to point out figures like Newton and Galileo were devout. However, after they died, we found journals and letters that say that they say the opposite. Why? Because they hadn't been killed for not believing in God as it was written in the Bible. What up, man? I'm at my brother's house, y'all. He peeking out the door. He looking like a creeper at his own house. Nah, just funny. All right, I'll be done in about 30, 40 minutes. But yeah, they like to rewrite history to make it fit their own narrative. You know, and you did have some of these people who were devout Christians, but other Christians today would say that they weren't Christians. Like John Dees was a devout Christian, but what he did, they would call witchcraft. He practiced alchemy. You know, science and religion rarely coexist. Yeah, part of the oath is to be a hypocrite, because they are hypocrites. But some of these people are so devout in it that they are just going, no matter what they learn, they're going to take whatever excuse is given to them. So an atheist is one who reads about it, but they're going to accept whatever excuse, and they're going to run with that, because that fear of going to hell, and then also the fear of what your neighbors and other people will think. You know, I remember going through that part. I remember going through the part where I was concerned about losing family, losing friends, you know, losing, you know, all these people, that I would just sit silently and be looking at the past like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because that's a real thing that people have to deal with. Yeah. And they just know that shit don't add up. What was this one? Do you believe Christian faith would be a minor religion in the next 100 years? Oh, I most certainly do. There will still be Christians in the next 100 years, but the number of Christians on the world would deplete drastically. I used to think it was only like the newer generations that was really walking away from this religion, but for some reason I'm consistently seeing these videos where they're asking people who are older than me, do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in? And they're like, no, no, no. So even the boomers are walking away from this religion. So I don't think Christianity will be a major religion in 100 years. I think that it will see such a decrease. It's going to be like, I'm a Star Trek fan. It'll be like Star Trek, where there's only a few people who still believe in it. What's the difference between alchemy, the alchemy you practice, and the alchemy the entertainment industry, political, and world powers practice? There's no difference. There's no difference in it. It's just how it's applied, right? Um, it's kind of like alchemy is a tool, like a hammer. I can build this house, or I can tear this house up, right? Uh, so alchemy is real. Alchemy is just really trying to turn your thoughts from lead to gold, right? Getting to the purest framework of mind. Uh, that's why you use metalworking and the analogies of metalworking in order to do so. It's just making yourself better or making your situation better. So there's no difference. It's just that some people think that in order to rise up, they have to step down on other people. And I'm not going to say everybody who's political or whatever has to do it that way, that they're doing it that way. Some do, some don't. But you know, it's a cutthroat kind of thing. Like in business, I'm not trying to let the competition win. I'm trying to make my side as best I possibly can. If you can beat me, then great. Then that just means I need to get better, right? But some people believe they got to stomp on people. But there is no difference. Like alchemy can't be formed in any other way other than what it is. I was reading Metamorphosis, but I haven't read that. Well, the name wouldn't have been Lucifer. It wouldn't have been Lucifer. I don't know the writer of that book, so I can't speak to their information. But uh, the the Latin word Lucifer, which means the morning sun, um, or the morning star, rather, is in reference to the planet Venus and how the planet Venus rises. So the Romans had a goddess, had the goddess Venus, and Lucifer and the goddess Venus pretty much wind up being the same thing. And it's just the star. It's just the way Venus looks in the sky in the morning. That's where the sun is going to rise. But Lucifer as a satanic being, a devil, or whatever, and even they would use the word Satan. Satan originally just meant administrator. Satan is a Sumerian word. The Arcadians translated it from administrator to adversary because Enlil was an adversary to Enki. And so he became an adversary at that point. And then Arcadian is a Semitic language. So when it got translated into the later Israelite language, Hebrew, it becomes adversary as well. But that's not the original meaning of the word. That's just how they changed it. Kind of like how the word awful has changed. But I don't know that author, so I can't speak to how they were doing how they justify it. Uh, but I go with the original origin of the words as best I possibly can. Entertainment industry is run by the Pentagon. I thought it was ran by the Illuminati. Nah, the entertainment industry is ran by money. Money. Sure, there's some political things that are involved. There's some military things involved. But at the end of the day, it's just like all industries is ran by money. Like metalwork fortune tools to make it. Yeah. I don't really know what you're talking about there. Yeah. And transmuting energy from one form to another. Yes. Um, like if you study uh, Tantra, Tantra, I know people talk about chakras, but Tantra is truly taking your sexual energies and utilizing it to manifest, put that energy towards, to transmute that energy into you making something better in your life. Is utilizing that innate sexual energy. But everything is energy, and everything just transmutes from one energy source to the next energy source. How you apply it is up to you. Most people don't apply it at all. Religion is a safe place for people to study, for them to stay away from really studying who they are. Oh, forge tools. Oh, it said fortune. I said forge tools, and they use those tools to make life better and easier. Yeah, that's all it is. I'm not scared of the devil, so Satan, my foot is on the neck. Dane says it. Allah was bigger. The only devil that exists is the one inside you. There is no devil. There's no being that is a devil. Like, the devil can't poof up and sit right here next to me. There's just no being that's a devil. There's no such thing as a devil other than you. Everybody has a little devil inside them, in their mind. That's where one of the stories of Lilith came from, that she took the wasted seed and wasted essence of wasting energy. That is part of her story when you look at it in the Akkadian versions with the Lulutu. No, well, it's more applied to Ilnana. And then so Lilith it's a different thing with Lilith. So Lilith is a Kabbalic name, first wife of Adam. It's pulled from the idea of the Lulutu tree, to which Ilnana needed Gilgamesh to scare away a raven and a snake from the Lulutu tree, and it was like this demon-possessed tree. And then it went out into the desert and it lured men into sexual behaviors and out to the desert to kill them and all these other sorts of things. So it's like this whole thing about it. But it actually starts with Ilnana, because Ilnana believed that immortality was within her sexuality. And so these men were sleeping with her, but they would die the next day. And she tried to get Gilgamesh to sleep with her, but Gilgamesh wouldn't do it. So instead of him doing that, he had to get rid of this Lulutu tree. So that's where Lilith, the name Lilith, comes from. But it's all kind of merged into one. Metamorphosis is a collection of Greek and Roman stories and myths. Okay. All of it was a Roman poet during the reign of Augustus. And they may have used Lucifer in that way. I don't know. Like I said, I've never read it. But as with all these things, they change over time. An Indian guru once said that sex is God. I agree with that dude, Mahendra. You never feel more power. You can feel real powerful after some good, when you not had it laid on you, great, and you laid it down great. Very confident and powerful at that point. The coming eclipse will start many earthquakes. It's eclipses. Okay. And here's the bullshit on that, Ricky. If you go to any country's seismology websites, you will see that there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of earthquakes that happen every day. Most earthquakes are so benign that people don't even realize an earthquake is happening. But every day, there are hundreds of earthquakes that happen. So it is easy to jump on that and say that, because you can find an earthquake every day. Every day, there's an earthquake. So I don't think the eclipse got anything to do with it. Because you're talking about moving tectonic plates. You're either a generator or a destroyer. Yep. Right. It's a solar eclipse. And depending upon where you're at, you're going to have different levels of it. Yep. They said he was the first wife of Adam, but she wanted to be on top. She didn't want to just be on the bottom all the time. So that's why she supposedly rebelled against Adam. And God chose Adam's side. But that's the Kabbalic literature. And they pretty much just extrapolated from the Akkadians. Lucifer being real would be great, because then the evil of the earth wouldn't be on humanity's faults. I can see what you're saying in that one. I can see what you're saying in that one. I wouldn't want it, because look, I don't want any beings more powerful than my own self to be the causation to whatever happens in my life. My goal always is to be the causation of as many things that happens in my life as I can create. I don't want to be the effect of nobody or no thing. And I do my damnedest to not be. Sometimes you can't help it. You know, if your boss decides they're going to shut down the company, you lose your job. Their causation is stronger than yours, and you have the effects of it. Now, what you do with that is going to be determined by your causation. Yep. Always excited. I am an overly optimistic person at all times. Now, you're right, Andy. The weather, scientifically, I don't know. I haven't measured it. I haven't looked it up. But logically thinking, with the sun and the moon in the same vicinity of each other, or the pathway of each other, there should be some type of difference that happens depending upon where you are within the eclipse. But I don't think there's anything major that's going to happen. But I'm gonna do some little research on that, because maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe gravity doesn't do anything stupid. Maybe the tides don't do anything stupid. Mm. Now, I haven't seen anybody giving out pamphlets. I'm in the South. I'm in Georgia right now, but that would be funny to me. That's if you work on a person's fear. Okay, so let's say I really wanted to grow this channel to be millions of people following this channel, then I would make everything fear-based. If you make everything fear-based, more people will come running behind you. And I think all these things, so using fear is a great way to get people behind you. So telling people, oh, you gotta survive. It's just like if they just threaten that we're gonna get a little snow or ice here in Atlanta, there's a run on all the grocery stores. There's a run on the gas stations. Man, just stay home for a day or two and it'll all be over. But that fear makes people run to it like nobody's business. Oh yeah, they just care about them being born. They don't care about nothing else. Oh, wait. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate the super thanks. Thank you very much. As someone who grew up in Georgia, in a Georgia Baptist church, I have a similar path. This topic is a passion of mine, and I would like to teach like you. Tips. Get started. You got a phone? When I first started, I used to write out bullet points so that I can concisely go through the list and not get lost in my own thoughts. But just get started. Just make your pages and start and get started. It may grow fast, it may grow slow, but consistency. Uh, you have to be consistent. People are not going to if people like what you're talking about, then you have to do it on a consistent basis. You can't uh, one video a month, one video every 3 months, that sort of thing. It's not going to work. If this is the type of platform you want to do it on, but you have to be consistent. Just like they ask for that, in the Baptist church, they ask for that tithe every week. No matter what's going on in the economy in the world, Give me that tithe every week, because they know that's what they need. And they throw that fear in every week because they know that's how they keep you. So you have to be consistent with everything you do. And just, there are going to be people who like you. There are going to be people who hate you. There are some people. I had a speaker, a guy who was a motivational speaker, once tell me. He said there could be 10,000 people in the room. 9,000 are going to like what I say, the way we can both say the same thing. 9,000 will like the way I say it, and 1,000 will like the way you say it. So, you vibe with your tribe. But thank you for the super thanks. We don't do spam here, sir. So I'm gonna ask you nicely not to do that anymore. Ma'am, sorry. But if you do it again, I will block you from this page forever. So do not spam this page or the people on this page. And if I find out you going into their inboxes, I will block you, period. Because people have come back and tell me how people go into their inboxes, and I block those people. We ain't doing that. Yeah, you got to be consistent, and you got to know. You got to know what you're talking about. Just because somebody, like, one of the things you can't do is like when the whole thing about Putin and the black people, Black Jesus was out, and somebody had said, I was in LA when the first person who asked me what did I think about that. And I didn't say nothing at first because I wasn't just going to run just because everybody was saying it. I went and I researched it to for about 30, 40 minutes. I researched that to make sure to see what he was actually saying. And it turned out to be false. And you can't have too many of those. You can make a mistake every now and then, but you can't have too many of those. And then be willing to go back and correct yourself as well. If you do make a mistake, be willing to go back and say, you know what? Hey, I messed this up. And just like some people are still watching videos I did like 8 years ago, and information has changed. And so I'll go back and I'll say, hey, 8 years ago I said this. No. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that, Christopher. I sent you a DM. I would love to. Okay. On IG. All right. We'll see to the extent. Because as you can imagine, I get requests constantly. But I do respect the willingness of a person to do a super thanks. That's it's one thing for people to just say, hey, I like it and thank you. And I love all the support everybody gives. But when a person does that, it's like a little bit more to me because, I guard my money. And I tell y'all, guard your money. So when I give my money, I give it to things that I find value in. Have you ever seen the picture that showed Black Jesus? It looks like Puff Daddy. I have seen some of those. And it does. I never thought about it, but they do. Yep. This guy is a terrorist. He kills for fun. I think he loves it. Oh. It's going to be a long journey, my guy. My journeys, even though I started researching when I was 9, I was still trying to be Christian, very much trying to be Christian. And then but my real separation started happening when I was about 24, 25. And that was tough. So it's a journey. I know you serious, Brent, and I will make sure that I reciprocate to you. Yeah, you can't. If you have to invest in the right thing. That's why anytime somebody asks me about investment advice, first thing I tell them is, look, either you're investing in a business that you're creating, or you invest in, if you need to be safe, invest in the S&P. Get an S&P fund from whatever company that you like, and commit every month to investing in that. 30 years of investing in an S&P will make a huge difference in your retirement life. So where you invest your money. Now, these people are investing their money in these churches, and they are getting no return. They get an emotional return, but they ain't getting any physical, tangible returns. Damn. Wasn't there a story where God forced a woman to have an abortion? There's the prescription in there where if a husband says that he doesn't think that, if he thinks his wife cheated on him, they can give her a magic little potion made out of mud and some other stuff. And if she miscarriages, then she committed adultery. There's that. Offhand right now, I can't think of a story where he forced a miscarriage on a woman. I know he killed David and Bathsheba's first son. He killed that baby, but that baby came out the womb. So he killed that baby because he had sex. He committed adultery with Bathsheba and then married her as one of his many, many wives. And then they had Solomon. Offhand, I can't think of any other time frames. My introductions to the Anaki story was Billy Carson. His passion is great and conviction strong, but his views are too rigid. Her views of the Anunnaki brought clarity to what they were. Yeah, that is my only thing. Billy Carson tries to make everything the Anunnaki, and it's just not. It's just not. But he tries very hard to do so, and I think he goes overboard with it. But people love that, though. They want to think that there's some alien beings that's created everything. Oh, my pleasure. Hey, Stephanie. Been a while. How you doing? What's that? A super sticker? Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very, very much. Oh, I think it was the priest and the weird potion. Yeah. Yeah, that was a rule, one of the rules that they had about bringing in, getting some mud and putting that shit together with some herbs. And you could, so like if a woman were to get her vajayjay steamed, certain herbs can be put into the steaming that if she's pregnant and she doesn't know it, it could cause her to have a miscarriage. Whereas there are other herbs that can pull out all that mucus. If she has a lot of mucus in her uterus, that may be preventing her from getting pregnant. Just a little something that I just knew about. All the time. Thank you. You are so very welcome. Has anyone target? Not directly. Like there's some guy in Houston that said that he'll destroy me. I don't know if you mean that physically or mentally. I've gotten a lot of, if you debate such and such, they'll all this stuff. But no one has threatened me physically to my memory. I think one dude talked some trash towards Angie, and I threatened him. Told him if I ever meet him face to face, we ain't going. We ain't about. I'm trying to. I'm working to reach the highest levels of alchemy, trying to be a master. But you come at my family or the very few people that I call friends, that old Marine Corps gonna come out of me. And then you don't want the Eddie J. Ross part to come out. That's a whole nother story. So I ain't reached that part yet. Still working. But no, nobody's come out to target me. I mean, you got some people who come out with some and I'm not trying to be mean when I say it. I've had some people come with some weak stuff, uh, and they try to make videos based off my videos, uh, but none of them getting any tread. Their information is weak at best. More conspiracy theory stuff than anything else. But I haven't had any governments or organizations or anything like that. I'm still so well below the radar that those people aren't paying attention to me. Hell, my total number, even though TikTok deleted one of my channels, my original channel that had 40,000 people on there. My total number of people on my channels amount to about less than 150,000 people. So I'm so far below the radar. Ain't nobody paying attention to me. If God would make an enemy of his glory, is it really glory? Exactly. Why would you make your enemy? But see, that's the thing about alchemy and hermeticism. You can't have, if there was a God, there has to be a devil, right? Because they both exist on the same plane. They're the same thing. They're on the same pole. They're just at different levels of vibration. Neither created the other. They both would just exist. Just like in your mind, you have positive thoughts and negative thoughts. You can't help but to have negative thoughts and positive thoughts. You can't help either one because you have thoughts, and they're just thoughts, and they just different. Every thought is somewhere different on the scale. So God could never create the devil. They would have to be in existence at the same time for either one of them to exist. Do I watch the contradictory videos? No, I don't. I don't particularly care, and I'm not willing to give my energy towards it for the most part. Now, if somebody, I know those can make for good videos because people like that stuff. Like, I love watching Dan McCullen's videos. Sometimes he pissed me off because I'll see a video and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that video," and then 3 scrolls later, there he is doing the damn video on the same one I wanted to. So I'd be mad, y'all. I'd be mad, and then I'm like, I ain't gonna do it now because Dan already did it. Even though I know my take on it can be somewhat different, but I don't get into that. Thank you. I sure would. Rashad Jamal. I don't know who that is. It's hard. Let me put it like this. It's hard for me to follow other people because I spend my time. The time that I spend, let me rephrase it. The time that I spend on this subject matter, I purely spend it on researching the subject matters that I want to bring to you guys. I don't really spend it watching, following someone else, because I know my personality. It's bad enough that I watch Gil's Arena, which is a basketball podcast. I could end up watching 3 hours of Gil's Arena each day. That's too much damn time. So I don't even watch the live broadcast. I wait till they cut it up. So if I'm following somebody, then I'm gonna spend way too much time, and then I'm not gonna deliver to you guys what I've been delivering. But the overwhelming majority of my time is spent with family, with Angie, and just enjoying life. I would say the majority of my time is I would be doing what I'm doing right now, except with no video, which is sitting in my brother's backyard, looking at the trees, watching the clouds go by, having a cigar. And if I wasn't on here, my brother would be out here talking to me. Angie probably out here. His wife probably out here. And we just be out here. Like that fire pit over there that y'all can't see. is gonna get lit tonight, because I will sit by that fire pit for like 3 hours, just enjoying life. You smoke too much? Nah, that's your opinion, and that's fine. You're more than welcome to have it, but okay. You left Jehovah Witness when you was 13. Ooh, did they ostracize you? I'm pretty sure they ostracized you. You are so, and this is other than so that my children will have my information if I when I transmute from this world. The other reason is because I know that there are people out there like Gabby who probably, if her family and friends and are still Jehovah Witness, will kick her out of the family, will turn their backs on her. And I remember feeling like that, or thinking I was going to be like that, because I used to. There were Jehovah Witnesses that I knew, and one Jehovah Witness guy, he decided he was going to date a Christian girl, a Baptist, and his family. He broke up with the girl literally because his family was going to call him an apostate, but it's a term for when they kick him out. But he broke up with the girl because of that, and she was a sweet girl, and he broke up with her because of that. It's ruthless, but this forum gives people an opportunity to connect with people of the same mindset and who won't ostracize you if you have a difference of opinion. And that's why oftentimes you will hear me say that family ain't blood, family is relationships, you know. I've seen a couple. Honestly, I wasn't impressed because you aren't spouting any agenda other than to become educated, which is never a bad thing. Thank you. Ooh, y'all going too fast. I was I was groomed by an elder son. See, that's some bullshit right there. And they probably blame you. And in the J Dubs, if they're not, they do the whole two witness thing. If they're not male witnesses to it, they won't believe the woman. And most of them that I've ever met and dealt with. Yeah. And that shit happens too often. Any organization that says that a woman's testimony is invalid and has to be backed up by some dudes, that's bullshit. The fact that from the Old Testament they take that there has to be two witnesses to everything, otherwise it's not valid. That's bullshit. Disfellowship. I don't know if that's the word. You don't have to send a super chat, Brent. I don't want you to feel like the only way that you get my attention is to send a super chat. I'm not a pastor, but I'm gonna hit you up on IG. The Abrahamic existence is not native to my culture or not native to many cultures around the world. No, it's not. They just, if it wasn't for the Roman government, that the Abrahamic shit wouldn't even be around. Yeah, family can be your worst enemies. Am I'd look at my family the same way I look at everybody else. Just because you my cousin, my brother, my sister, my aunt, my mama, my daddy, that don't mean you automatically get my allegiance, that you automatically get my love. Just like I gotta earn your love, you gotta earn mine. I was questioned by group men, disgusting questions, whether I enjoyed it. And yes, the two witnesses rule is correct. Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing. If you enjoyed it, they used to say that a man could not be raped if he got an erection during the rape, right? Especially younger men ain't got no control over that. He could be getting his ass whooped, or he could be feeling like a stressful situation, and that thing will act on his own sometimes. you know, When I was younger, you just brush up against a counter and it's like, ah, what happened? What's going on? Like, dude, I just brushed the counter. Wait, what's? Come on now. Can we have a little control? The Sibyls were the true divine mothers of the earth, and the Arcadians, Assyrians, and the Romans stole and usurped their information. I don't know about the Sibyls. I have to look that up. Who's what culture had that? Stephanie. I know Sybil Shepherd. Let's see. Oh, they were the first prophetess of Mami Wata. They are female seers from the ancient world whose prophecies. How do you go from Mami Wata to prophesizing Jesus? That don't even make sense. Then you got the same name used for oracles in ancient Greece. Right, in Delphi. I would just call them the oracles of Delphi. See, I hate how history has been Hellenized so much. You go and read something about it, and the first thing they want to talk about is the Greeks or somebody like that, not where they may have gotten it from. Cause I see where one who was talking about Mama Wata. Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, family can be very selfish. And like my family knows, if somebody is damaging the family, I cut them jokers in a heartbeat. Up, you out. You out. You gotta go. Yeah, I would agree. All of them are man-made, and their religion is a very evil thing. Even though some people, emotionally, my life is so much better, and I can see those parts of it. But on a whole, it's done more tragic death. It's created more tragedy and death than anything else. When you was 25, 28, okay. The curtain was lifted in 2020. You got 2020 vision. I like that. That might be the name of your channel, man. 2020 vision on religion. See, you like that. You like that, don't you? 2020 vision on religion. Or 2020 vision on deconstructing. Like how to see it, how to see deconstructing clearly. The pathway of these, whatever, it depends on what your mode that you want, what pathways you want to follow. But I like that. Your ex-wife is J Dub. She used to try and beat me, then call the police and say she's a Christian and she can't do no wrong. Oh, damn, Derek. That's messed up. And you on the losing end. When the police get there, they automatically gonna side with the other person, with the woman, if you're a man. That's why when I had a woman act violently towards me, look, I left. I left, never came back. Because I was like, no, because this won't end well for me. And I was in a little country ass town too at the time. Yeah, I hate that you went through that. I was prophesized to when I was a toddler in my grandmother's church. I think that simple thing imprinted on me. This journey's been on. I do like the channel idea. Yeah, I understand those whole prophecy thing. Like, because I was studying the Bible at such a young age, at 9 years old, and when they see that, man, they try to jump on. Oh, God came and told me that you're gonna be a great preacher one day. Got that shit wrong. Even when they said that to me, I was like, I like having fun. What the hell are y'all talking about? I don't ever want to be a preacher. Say J-dubs are not Christians. What is a Christian really? I mean, the technically you can just say a Christian is a person who believes in the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus as the Son of God. And then there are 42,000 variations of groups who believe that. And each one of them claim to be the true Christians. Is nature worshiping tantamount to worshiping God? Any kind of worshiping is tantamount to worshiping a God. Like, nothing has to be worshiped. Nothing should be worshiped, right? All things now giving reverence, to nature, giving reference to a person or a philosophy, just giving respect of it. So I shouldn't even use the term reverence. Respecting nature, respecting people, respecting yourself, respecting the laws of physics. And when you respect it, you use it in the best format for what it does. Like, we don't give respect to the earth right now. Like, the young lady tell me I smoke too much. She probably eat meat. So you give me a person who's a vegetarian but smokes cigars, and only cigars, not cigarettes, because there is a big difference. That person is going to have a healthier life than the person eating all the meat, because that person eating all the meat, especially if they're in America. Now, meats in other countries are done differently, but especially in America, you are eating so many carcinogens that you are effectively destroying your body and not giving reverence to your body. So respecting nature is different, but you shouldn't worship anything. If you're going to worship something, worship yourself by respecting yourself. All right. And the thing about it, you should leave, because as a man, you're going to lose. So leave. Yeah, it's just followers of the Christ, of the so-called the Christ. Heaven only exists in the mind. Exactly. That is one of the things that I read back in the early mid 90s was the Gospel of Thomas, and I actually do, for the most part, like the Gospel of Thomas, because it's always talking about heaven is at hand, it's before you, that they've covered your eyes and you can't see it, that it's everywhere. It's not something that you wait for, that is all within you, and you got to bring what's in you out of you. I like those aspects of the Gospel of Thomas, and it's short, only 114 sayings. But I don't like the how it treats women and some of the other bullshit on it. Actually, we did a whole. If you go into my playlist on YouTube, we did the Gospel of Thomas. So we did the 7 Hermetic Principles. If you go into the playlist on YouTube, there is a playlist called the Kabbalion, and we read through the Kabbalion, which goes through all 7 Hermetic Principles. So playlist, YouTube, Kabbalion, you'll get that one. I think in one of the videos in the beginning, the first one, we might have gotten into the character. We talked about, I know we had to talk about Hermes and Thoth, because the Kabbalion talks about Hermes and Thoth. So I'm sure I discussed that. And that was about a year or two ago that we did the Kabbalion. I mean, we got some nice weather here in Georgia, but Barbados is probably real nice, real nice. Thank you for making me feel that way. Thank you for making me feel that way. As a father, when my son wanted to go to church, I took him. We went together and did all the church things. He chose to deconstruct at 12 after a debate about animals on the Noah's Ark and Sunday school teacher. After this, he asked me if I was mad, and I told him I never believed. I went for him. That's some good parenthood right there. That's some good parenthood. That is some real good parenthood. I hate when I see these parents try to shut their children down. Children is asking legitimate questions. Why are you trying to shut the kid down? Yeah, that God moves in mysterious ways is just an excuse. It's part of their. This guy I saw this video where this guy termed it as excusology, but it's part of their excusology. What is your theory on knowledge? How do we know what we know? We know what we know through observation and testing. Like all knowledge is gained through observation and testing. Like we either observe something and then we and or test it. And most of the time it's both. So when we observe, like if you sit like I do a lot and I observe the movement of clouds, all right, through that observation of movement of clouds, I can say that in Atlanta, the clouds go in a northeast direction. So therefore, even though the wind at my level may sometimes blow, west, but at the upper atmosphere, it's always, for the most part, is blowing northwest. So I can observe that and I can test it by just simply watching it over and over again over a long period of time. So that's how we acquire knowledge. We see how birds act and all these sort of things. Then with testing at different molecular levels, we can see other things. So that's how knowledge works. Observation and testing. Our entire existence is an allegory. Now, my existence is a reality. What is an allegory for? What is it an allegory? So take all that back. What isn't it an allegory for? Yeah, I can see how if the civils were started with the seers from Mama Wata and whatnot, I can see how that I can see it two ways. I can see how that information translate as people migrated out of Africa, and then because of where they are, develop their own sense of it. But I can also see a world think. Like in the video where I talked about Yahweh as a storm deity, it didn't take people in the Americas around the Appalachians or out west to come up with a storm deity. They didn't have to learn it from Israelites or Canaanites. They would have developed that through observing how the clouds were functioning over the mountains and in their land, and they would have came up with a storm deity. So because people have dreams, and then some of those dreams seem to come true, and then people get on some herbs, I can see how people all over the world have people who are seers. But then we also do have, like in a video I did like last week or a week before, as people migrate around the world and time goes by, they begin to create their own deities based on the environment that they live in. So unless that knowledge, so that sub-Saharan knowledge in that migration to the north and then into Europe, I can see how that idea of seers traveled with those people. But I can also see how they could develop that on their own as well. Because that's one of those general things that most people are going to see. Kind of like trees, and grass, and fertility, and the sun and the moon, the waters. All right, Jose, that's what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, it is New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Well, have we hit the spring? Have we had the spring equinox? But we're definitely in now. We there. We close. Can you observe your soul, or do you believe in a soul? I believe in it. I can observe my consciousness because I know I have one. And it's been this weird thing. Like I was a weird kid in that I used to always look at other people and I see somebody drive down the street and I was like, that person is having an entire experience of a life, and I have no idea of it, and they have no idea of my life. So at an early age, I started recognizing the consciousness that we all have our own world that we're existing in, and at moments we share those worlds. So our consciousness would be my equation to a soul, right? That we exist as a very complex network of energy that is self-aware, and that self-awareness is where I would utilize your term soul, but I just, like I said, use consciousness. And I don't think that I think that consciousness has always existed and will always forever exist. This is where I disagree with the Buddhists when they say you can come back as a dog or a cow or a flower. My consciousness is too complex to come back as a flower, because if my consciousness has self-awareness now, then me coming back as a flower, I would be self-aware that I'm a flower and I'm a flower. So that's my perspective on it. That's how I think about it, and that's my observation of it, because I am currently observing my conscious thoughts about that tree over there that's waving left and right, and the tree next to it is not waving as much because it's a bigger tree and so it has stronger roots and so it's not going to be moved as much by the wind. But I can consciously observe that from my own perspective, where somebody else can sit up here and look at it and have a whole totally different thought. Happy New Year. You too, Jordan. Do I think that some of the gods and goddesses could have walked on Earth and are interactive, and interactive with people? I think some of the things that have been made into gods and goddesses may have been previous civilizations on Earth, like prior to the Younger Dryas, prior to the Ice Age from 35,000 years ago, and they survived that Ice Age or some other cataclysmic event on Earth. And when they presented themselves to other people who had survived, who were more primitive than they thought that they were gods. But I think they were still corporeal beings, that none of them were actually some type of god. They just had higher technology. There are many episodes in Star Trek. I love my Star Trek, where they demonstrated that when a higher technological group comes and interact with a more primitive group, a God sense starts to happen if those people hadn't reached a certain scientific age yet. And for me, that's all I think that most of these gods are. Like Shango could have possibly existed as one of those beings, or Shango could have just been a great king or a great warrior, and then they legendized him, much in the same way Hercules was a real dude who was the king of Argos, according to some Greek artifacts, but his story got legendized. Johnny Appleseed's story gets legendized. Davy Crockett becomes legendized. What is the big tall dude with the big blue ox? He gets legendized. So in 100 years, Dr. King was performing miracles and healing people. And I think there is a possibility of reincarnation and you've lived multiple lives. I don't think you should be able to remember all of them, because if you did, your brain would stop functioning, because you would remember everyone you loved and everyone you've lost, everyone you loved, everyone you lost, every trauma you've ever been through. Like if I existed in the 1600s in America as a black man or a black woman, then the trauma I would not want to remember that trauma right now. Or even if I existed as a slave owning white man or white woman at that time, I would not want to remember the trauma that I inflicted. To remember all those lives, I think it would be too emotional for anybody to handle. But there are some things that just seem, you familiar with things or personality things or things that you just are attracted to, and you have no idea why, and you've never experienced certain things, but you just attracted to certain things. Does not experience represent certain frequencies of energy in existence, different emotions, feelings have a person. Yeah, they all do. Everything is energy. I wouldn't necessarily call them an allegory, though. I wouldn't use that term, right? That's just their existence. Like every thought that I'm having right now, everything that I'm saying is a frequency, has its own frequency, right? And it exists and it's reverberating, and it has effects on everything around it. Even it has an effect on everybody who's listening. It even has an effect on me when it comes out my mouth, and I'll contemplate things that I say, and it may change certain things about me or change certain things about people. So those frequencies do exist. It's part of the reality. We just understand that reality is not just this matter level that we exist on, that there are higher and lower planes of existence. And the law of correspondence, which talks about as above, so below, meaning that everything that happens on the above happens on the below, everything happens on the outside happens on the inside, but also that things on the above can affect the below and things on the below can affect the above, meaning that those frequencies of energy have effects on different planes of existence, but we don't consciously, our majority of our consciousness can only exist at one time on one plane of existence. You may have existed on a higher plane, on a more energetic plane. You may have existed on a more of an atomic plane. But you can only perceive the plane that you exist on. You concur. Paul Bunyan, thank you. What part of Georgia are you in, Jose? Oh, I do think that there are beings on other planets. Some are more advanced, some are less advanced. I think it depends on where they are in regards to where they are within our galaxy. Just in our galaxy alone, not even talking about the universe, just our galaxy, there has to be hundreds of thousands of life similar to our own that exist. And I'm only talking about the ones similar to our own. I'm pretty sure there are beings of life that exist on a planet that if they came to Earth, they would suffocate. Just the math of that. Math will suggest that there would have to be life. Whether or not they've traveled here, can travel here, depends on their technology. They sure hell ain't doing it linear. They ain't flying through space because the speed that will be needed to reach Earth, and since space does have matter and the friction and the micro, I mean, they could develop technology that does allow them to, but that would be the worst way of traveling. Now, if they can fold space, that'd be different. But I'm always ready for them to come down because I think I need to go with them. I don't need to be here. Oh, you up in Gwinnett? Oh shit, Brent. I'm in South Fulton right now. I used to live in Stone Mountain, but I'm in South Fulton. Yeah, and it's a cigar event, but tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. I will be at Stone Mountain Public House, but it is a cigar event. But I'll be at Stone Mountain Public House at 7 p.m. tomorrow for anybody who's in Georgia. He's your king, not mine. Doesn't love me because something that never exists cannot love. Ooh, that's a big loan. Yeah, looking at mental that half. I would say the overwhelming majority of people who claim the exorcisms and ghosts and all that kind of stuff is like, you've been watching too much TV. I'm not getting down with that. I need more proof of that. And then why would my consciousness be stuck here? Greetings, greetings. Got some fish and chips. Hey, Debbie. I'm still mad at you, Debbie. Just by the way, I'm just let you know I'm still. No, I'm not mad at you because once I found out you were pretty far away from Dallas, so I'm gonna let you slide. So I'm not mad at you anymore. Oh damn, you in Clayton? Like I said, tomorrow night I know where I'll be at Stone Mountain Public House for a cigar event. More than welcome to come. It is a bar restaurant. It's a cigar bar restaurant, so you got to buy something when you're there. All right. Look forward to meet you. I'll be a guy with the hat on. Other than there'll be some other people with a hat. Crane Rising, how you doing? Right. Your soul is your emotions and your memories. Yeah. Which to me wraps up into your consciousness. But the next time I'm coming across Dallas, you got to make plans, Debbie. That's why I do like telling y'all where I'm going to be because I do like meeting people. I forgot to take a picture until we had already gotten to the Uber. But when we was in Phoenix, I met Isaac and his wife, and we sat there at the cigar lounge, shared a meal, had a great conversation. And let me tell you, my conversations, don't get mad at me if you meet me. I talk about other stuff too. We have regular conversation. Sure, we talked about this when I met with Isaac and his wife. We talked about this for a little bit, but we also talked about everything else under the sun. We talked about San Antonio. We talked about children. Uh, we talked about work. We talked about a bunch of stuff. So don't get mad at me if I just don't get engrossed in this type of conversation. And especially at that event, because there will be other people who, they Christian, they everything else, and it's really we just laughing and joking and having a good time. But I do try to give some time to talk about a few things. So don't get mad at me if we don't just zero in on just this type of conversation, because I am a more complex person than just what we talk about here. But I just want to make sure Isaac know that we had a good time. And plus, also at a cigar event, I respect the environment that I'm in. Yeah, and I just good fellowship. Oh, you saying fellowship is a dope? Mm, mm. Cuban cigars are very overrated. Fellowship can be a nice place. I guess I went into fellowship expecting more out of it, and I didn't get what I was expecting. I would have rather went to Highlands than going to fellowship. I mean, it was my first time going there, and it was a great date night for me and Angie. We went to fellowship and Red Phone Booth. But I'd have been just as happy going to Highlands. Right time and place for everything. Oh yeah, yep. With all the stuff I study a bunch of different things, and then I contemplate a bunch of things. Like I could do a whole channel just based on relationships. I would probably get bored after a while, but I can do a whole channel based on that. I can do a whole channel based on different scientific um, like animals. There was Isaac, he loves studying ancient mythologies. I was telling him he should do a whole channel just talking about ancient mythologies, right? Like if this was back when I was in my early 20s, I probably would have did a channel where I'm just discussing all the different mythologies from around the world because I was very much into it at that time frame. That's always interests me. Take the spirit path. It's intense. Plus very personal with God. What God? Which God? Well, based on what I can somewhat tell your picture look like, you're talking about the Jesus God, right? So would you say the same thing to a person who's Indus and they'll be on a very spiritual path with Brahma, or a person who Ifa and a very spiritual path with whoever their Orisha, and then ultimately with Otomari? So at the end of the day, it's a path with yourself. It's a path with yourself. Oh yes. Oh, your wife loves Highland. Yeah, it's centrally located. Is it got a great vibe other than Friday night when the music's too damn loud. But other than that, it's great. If you want to watch sports, it's great. You want to meet people, it's great. I can go right there right now, and I guarantee there's some people I know. But yeah, I like Highlands. But yeah, that's yeah. My spiritual path is with me, me, 5 me. But I did tell my brother I was gonna be off here in about 40 minutes, and that was about an hour ago. Uh, don't tell him, but I do like spending quality time with my brother. But don't tell him; he don't need to know all that. Might go to his head or something. Yeah, gods are man-made. Um, Definitely that. Off Centerville? No. It's downtown Stone Mountain. So it's called Stone Mountain Public House. It's in downtown Stone Mountain. I put it in the chat so that you'll be able to refer to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Stone Mountain Public House. Um, Plus, I got to pick up a whole bunch of cigars that I ordered on Jeff and Rory's account while we was in Vegas at the cigar conference. But yeah, so I'm gonna end this now because y'all can keep me talking for hours, and y'all know y'all can. And um, before I go to Public House, sometime tomorrow we may go live. Probably will. I know I'm having breakfast with my girls and my mom. My mother doesn't know yet. I got to call her. Gonna have breakfast with them, and then we got some errands to run. So it'll probably be close to this time tomorrow. Or no, it'll be earlier because 7 o'clock got to be at Public House. Um, so y'all have a great. I appreciate everybody. Everybody was great on here. Thank you for all the super chats. That's always amazing to me because honestly, I even though I know that I give a lot of information, I never think about it as far as money, you know, monetary value. It's just what I do. So, but I do appreciate it. So, I just want to make sure I acknowledge that to Brent and Stephanie. Um, so, I will talk to you guys more than likely tomorrow. I did publish 4 videos before I started this live. Go and watch those videos. I hope you enjoy them. I know you will. And then share them. Share everything, right? Sharing is caring. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And I am.